Are you looking at your calendar right now thinking, how am I supposed to teach all of this before testing and still have the students who are actually okay? Because I have been seeing this everywhere. Over the last few weeks, I went into different Facebook groups and I asked teachers about testing. I asked, are you cramming? Are you stressed? Are you trying to fit it all in? And the response, oh my gosh, it was immense. And what I found was really interesting because teachers seem to keep falling into three different camps of thinking: the crammers, the magicians, and the it is what it is crew. So we're going to take a look at those three camps of thinking and a few solutions as well. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. Okay, let's make this so simple. You do not need another 400-page teacher manual. You don't need another random PD session. You don't need a full classroom makeover. And for heaven's sakes, you do not need a new initiative. What you need is a reset. You need a clear plan. And that's exactly what the Classroom Reset gives you. It is a step-by-step framework that you can move through at your own pace. It's short trainings, practical strategies, and immediate implementation. I mean, you can learn something one day and put it into practice the very next day. No fluff, no overwhelm, no stress. We're all about no stress here at the Inspired Classroom. And no adding 17 new things to your plate or having to carve out time in your day to implement these things. This is going to dramatically change your teaching and your classroom in some of the smallest and most powerful ways possible. You're going to take what fits your style, your grade, your content, your students, and you implement it right away. In just the first week, I promise you, you're going to start noticing a difference. So if you're done spinning your wheels and you want a clear path forward, this is it. Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset and let's make this so easy. So it seems that teachers who are prepping for the test season are really falling into three different camps of thinking. There are the crammers. These are the teachers who are really feeling the pressure and they try to fit everything in, rushing through content, feeling stressed, and feeling overwhelmed. Then there are the magicians, and they somehow have everything already taught and they even have time for review. And the rest of us are like, are you kidding? How in the world did you manage that? Please show us your ways. And then there's this third way of thinking, and that is, I'm calling the it is what it is crew. These teachers have said things like, I'm not going to stress about this anymore. I can only do what I can do. And what's funny is, I tend to be a teacher who goes back and forth from a crammer to an it is what it is teacher. And I sincerely want my students to do well, and I sincerely want to make every attempt to make sure that they have learned all of the things, or at least been exposed to what they will see on the test. And then I'll have a moment of throwing up my hands and going, okay, well, this test is asking too much. It's ridiculous for them to have us do all of this, while we still will end up having almost 2 months left of school. But when I start thinking that way, throwing my hands up and being dismissive of the test, or even feeling like I'm so under pressure that I need to cram, I really need to pause myself. And I want to encourage you to do that as well. Because there's a difference between letting go of what you can't control or cramming things and trying to control everything. There's a difference between that and then disconnecting from your purpose. Because here's what I believe. We do have an obligation to our students to teach the content that they'll be assessed on, right? And at the same time, the system does not always give us the time or the structure to do that well. Both of these things can be true. Both of these things, I believe, really are true for so many teachers. But when we fully disconnect, we risk losing something really important. When we cram, we also risk losing something really important. That connection to why we're doing this work in the first place. So instead of panic and instead of apathy, let's talk about what we can do through some intentional teaching. So instead of rushing through content or giving up, here are 3 suggestions to make a better way forward. And by the way, these are the same 3 things that I always end up reverting back to year after year since I've been teaching in a test-taking grade level, which I have for the past 18 years of my career as a 3rd and a 4th and now a 5th grade teacher. So this first thing is really big, okay? It's prioritizing your power standards. Now, I know that can kind of be a buzzword, so forgive me for that if that makes you want to roll your eyes. I know it kind of does for me too. But this one really is big and important, okay? So let's put this into perspective. When you take some time to really look at what will actually be tested and focus your energy there. I find myself doing this when I'm doing something like taking a good look at past tests and really combing through and seeing what kind of things have these students been assessed on in past years and how can I really prioritize those power standards. I'm doing quotes in the air with my fingers right now. Those power standards, those big themes that they're going to be assessed on. Now, I want to say this really clearly. It is not horrible to preview the test or look at past tests, right? It is not a bad thing to show students examples of what they can expect. There's a lot of stigma around quote unquote teaching to the test, but if we take a step back and to really look at this, we're expected to assess our students as any good education system would do, right? We want our students to be set up for as much success as possible. Now, does that mean every test is developmentally appropriate? Well, probably not, and certainly not always. And that's a whole other conversation. But within what we can actually control, we can be intentional. And if you're in a situation like I am, where after the test is over, I'm going to have at least another full 4 to 6 weeks of school, there is time after the test for some deeper exploration, for some creativity, some enjoyment, and some learning of that content still before they graduate on into the summer. The second thing that I always find myself really digging into is teaching the social emotional side of testing. And this one, man, this could be even more important because what I see when I go over test questions with students is that many of them, they give up before they've even truly read the question. Things like that. Oh my gosh, it actually drives me crazy when you know that they know the content, but they're not giving themselves the opportunity to fully understand what they're being asked so that they can then do their best answer. That's not a content issue. That's a mindset and emotional regulation issue. So we need to explicitly teach students things like the test is going to frustrate you sometimes, and that's okay. You may look at a question or the listing of all the answers and get totally overwhelmed by all the words, and that's okay. You just pause, you take a breath, you get yourself ready, and then you go in and you do it. You're going to struggle with some of parts of this test. and that's okay. And I even like to explicitly talk to my students about the fact that the test is designed to challenge you, and that might feel uncomfortable, but you are ready to tackle it. So our job becomes, to help students understand that they need to step up to the challenge. They need to put their best effort forward. They need to be patient with themselves and take their time to think things through. And here's one that's really been on my mind the last few weeks, and that is using scratch paper. Show your work. Please, my darling students, do not just do all the math in your head. Write it down. When in doubt, draw it out, right? Those are the types of things that they really need to fully understand what that is going to help them do when they're in the testing situation. And then, of course, there's also come in well rested, be in a good mindset, and just be ready to do your best. Now, the crammer inside of me really has to think about this third one, because I always find myself doing this right before the test, and that is building in some breathing room in the day or so before the test, because we cannot cram right up until the last minute. Students need time for their brains and their bodies to just rest. And that rest can happen not just at home, not just, the night before, but it can happen inside your classroom. And that might look like doing a creative activity the day before the test. That's one of my favorite things to do with my students. It could be turning a review into a fun game like Jeopardy, or finding some bookets that will work for you. It could be letting students create motivational cards or posters for each other. That's something I really love doing, is having the students. Or here's another one of my favorite things to do with my students the day or two before the test is getting them to create motivational cards or posters for each other. That's really just a nice, kind thing to do, and it ties in very well if you do Friendly Fridays in your classroom. And just kind of giving space for connection and encouragement and some creativity so that your students can just relax in a nice, enjoyable environment and know that, the following day is going to be a big day, but let's all be ready for it. Because when students can feel calm and supported and connected, they are going to perform better. So there you go. 3 practical strategies that you can use no matter if you're a crammer, if you're part of the It Is What It Is crew, or you're one of those rare magicians that have it all done already, helping you remember your purpose with intentional teaching in the days before the test. For number 1, prioritizing those power standards. Number 2, teaching that social emotional side of testing. And number 3, being sure to build in some breathing room before the test so that your kids can rest before they tackle those big days. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.